We had a mystery on our hands this week. The scholars in this room are the crew of the mighty ship, the Envisioneer. While in search of an ancient treasure, we are marooned on an island, and a key part of the navigational map went missing. Of course, of the entire crew, we considered 4 suspects. Today, you will hear the evidence against Dr. Smart and Shipwright Neff. After becoming stranded on the island, many of the crew members have fractured or sprained limbs. Dr. Smart asked for our help to apply splints. For the splints, we had to brace arms, ankles, and even the neck. We used the surplus of ace bandages and a triangular sling to help provide medical care for the injured crew members.
This is an example of an arm splint. While providing medical care, we noticed a crew member experiencing trouble breathing. We created a lung model to understand the respiratory system.
The straw represents the trachea. The balloon attached to the straw represents the lungs, and the balloon on the bottom represents the diaphragm. When the balloon diaphragm is pulled, the lungs are filled with air. And when the diaphragm is decompressed, the lungs are empty. We are able to determine the crew member had a collapsed lung, which Dr. Smart was able to treat.
After the shipwreck, we did a head count of the crew and determined some of the crew were unaccounted for. Since we were unfamiliar with the island, we assembled the M-Bot to search for the missing crew. Once the M-Bot was built, we used it to access parts of the island inaccessible by human.
In order to do this, I had to code the M-Bots to follow specific paths. To do this, we used an iPad. We were able to locate Shipwright Neff and First Mate Sydney Young. These 2 crew members were also suspects in our case.
We also built a truss bridge that was needed to locate and get to food for our stranded crew. We used only straws and paper clips. The bridge was constructed mostly of triangles, which we learned are the strongest shape in construction. We are able to drive our M-Bot across the bridge successfully to retrieve food necessary for survival.
3.
While creating the living quarters on the island for the crew, one of the crew members became highly tired and was unable to continue. But Dr. Smart decided it was related to the cardiovascular system and allowed us to participate in one of the cow heart dissection. And the cow heart is a very similar to a human heart, but it was about 10 times larger.
This allowed us to investigate how blood flows through the heart into other parts of the body. We were able to determine why the crew members suffered a heart attack. After our engineering team located First Mate Sydney Young and Shipwright Neff to lead them back to our living quarters, Sydney Young was bit by a snake.
In order to better help her, we learned about neurotoxic and hermatoxic venom. Hermatoxic venom affects the blood, causing it to curdle, which prevents proper blood flow. We experimented with chemicals, which was milk and lemon juice. We were able to provide anti-venom to save Young. She told us that Neff kidnapped her. She saw him and another crew member planning their getaway with the map. She could not identify the other person.
One of the key pieces of evidence found on the scene of the crime was blood splatter. In order for us to learn more about the height that the blood splatter fell from, our CSI team completed a blood drop replication, 12 inches the shin area, 30 inches the waist level, and 66 inches the head area.
Our suspects had cuts on these parts of their body. After completing the replication, we analyzed and measured the diameter of each blood drop from each height. We then did the same for the blood drops found at the scene of the crime. When we compared our findings, we determined the blood fell from 30 inches the waist area.
Finally, we were able to determine that Shipwright Knapp had a cut on his hand. With this new evidence and the testimony from Young about being kidnapped by Knapp, we were able to determine his guilt. We questioned him and he admitted to his part in the crime.
Another piece of evidence found at the scene of the crime was a mysterious white powder. In order for us to determine the white substance, we made observation with white powders found on the ship, including cornstarch, baby powder, cream of tartar, and powdered sugar. After making observation about the texture, smells, its reaction to iodine and water, and it was we were able to conclude the mystery powder used to treat sunburns. This powder is usually kept in doctor's quarter.
Finally, the last piece of evidence found at the scene of the crime was fingerprints. In order for us to pull the fingerprints, we used powder to dust the prints. Then we used tape from the ship to pull the prints for analyzation. We compared the prints to our remaining suspects. The prints were palms which matched Dr. Smart. With these pieces of evidence, in addition to the Knapp's confession, we determined Smart was guilty.